on my section, post reading week 5. There's resources there for CSS for printing and for audio and video examples. So we're going to look at the CSS for printing first, and we look at audio and video, and then I'll let you work away with that, and we'll see how everything goes from there. Okay. So CSS for printing. There's and also, just by the way, to mention that Philip has put up his videos up on the normal video section to cover both of these. So you've plenty of resources there. Now, just before we get into that as well, I suppose we're still planning on having classes in line on next Monday and Tuesday, or not in line, in the institute on Monday and Tuesday next week. Although I've just received an email there about power, so I just need to check some stuff. But we'll plan at the moment anyhow that we're going ahead with having face-to-face classes next week, same time that we're at here. See whether or not I can get any of the other lecturers that you would normally have on a Monday to have their classes in house as well, so that could make it for a nice day. Everybody's seeing each other and that kind of stuff. But we'll see how it goes. The only problem that I've just seen is an email there that they're turning off the power over the weekend and it might be back on, but I'd say it probably will. So I'll just double check on that. So that's the plan. What we're going to do then is we're going to be looking, well, we'll put stuff up on Moodle. We're going to look at your having the your website up on the MySQL. That's that's the Ringagullion website and all the changes that were associated with that. So you need to have that up on the MySQL web service that you have there. And we'll go through. Remember, we're using that for some of the assessment to check all the different bits and pieces that we've been doing over the last wee while. Also, the other thing we want to do is we want to look at what your plans are for the final CA. So it's kind of an outline of what you intend to do, what your website team is. If you've any information in terms of what your logo and so forth is going to be, it'd be a good time to bring it in. Okay, so that's the plan as it is at the moment. Okay, but as I said, there seems to be some kind of change happening, so I'll just need to double check some stuff on that. But we'll get back to you. Say, hopefully, I'll have an answer by Wednesday for our class. Okay, so what we're looking at here now is situations where we don't necessarily want to have the print. When we go to print a web page, we don't necessarily want to print everything that we can see on the display version of the website, and there can be reasons for this. The example that has been given, if we look at the website that is in there in the resources at this samples.html. We've got an example here. We've got an image and we've got some stuff that is being displayed on top of the image. Okay, here, here, and here. And we'll also see that these text boxes that don't contain all of the text because we're using the scroll feature here. Now, while that's lovely and very interactive and so forth for looking at it on the display view, it's absolutely useless for us then when we actually go to try and print it, because a printer is very linear, so it can't print one element on top of the other element for starters. Okay, and the other thing is as well, then it can't make a decision to say, well, you said you only want to show so much text, but you really want me to print out all of it. So that doesn't necessarily work. The other thing as well is then you have all these links here on the side. Do you want to have them printed out? Because they're absolutely not any use, because it's not as though you can actually look at that and say, well, that actually means home. Yeah, it does, but what's the URL? You don't have it. Okay. Now, if you go and right click anywhere other than over the image, okay, and go to print, it will come up with a print preview. Okay, and the print preview looks like this. Okay, so that's what it would by normal means look like. We don't want it to look like that. Okay, we want it to look something different. So just bear that in mind. Back to our document here, and we've got issues, in terms of, do we want to print out hyperlinks, images, advertisements? So if you look at this page here, there's advertisements coming up, and they'll be very much dependent, obviously, on your browser history and so forth as to what ads are going to come up. So you don't really necessarily want to show them. You might want to just show what's actually related to the story itself. So if we click on this link, what will actually happen, we see it there. Okay. If we go to the print view, click on the print button, it'll load our preview. We could alternatively have gone right click on print. Okay. And we'll see that we're just getting a subset. We're not getting any of the ads. Okay. We're just getting the story that we want. Okay. There's nothing else been thrown in there. So all of this stuff up at the top, the URLs, the links, all that, that's not included on the menus and that. Any ads that might be showing up, there's obviously a video embedded there. No point in printing out a header for a video. Okay, it's just wasting ink. Okay, and you've got all these other ads here that are coming through. Okay, so you wouldn't necessarily want to show them because they're obviously going to change, because that there's kind of like today's most read articles from this website. They're not going to be relevant. Even if you look at this tomorrow, it's going to be different, or if you look at it in a week's time, it's going to be different. Okay, so we want to curtail what we're actually printing out. Okay, now we can do that using CSS. Okay, and what we're actually going to do here is, oops, we've got a couple of examples that are given here. Now, one thing to look at, okay, is there's incorrect code given in the examples below. Every time you see media equals, it'll either be screen or print. Okay, there was a time when there was things called projection, TV, and TTY. Okay, and these have been what we call depreciated, which means they're no longer fully backed up and kept active as such, and it's a good idea not to use them and get away from using them. They will still semi work, okay, but they won't. It's not preferred, okay. And you will actually get messages coming up saying that actually these are depreciated as such. What used to happen was that we used to have for screen then comma projection, so that would give you. You're saying you're normally your media is everything. The default value is everything. So we're not specifying whether it's display or monitor or print or whatever, okay? But when we do specify, say, the screen, okay, there was a time when you used to be able to say projector as well, okay? And that's just for overhead projectors. That was at a time when projectors were handled differently. Screen size, their resolution, all that kind of good stuff was different. Today, they're a lot more compatible with the actual monitor, and there is no need, if you like, your computer, your PC, your laptop will actually take care of that transition between your display that you would get normally on your computer and what you would actually get on the projector. The same then with TVs. Obviously, TVs work differently. A lot of people have smart TVs now, or their semblance of being smart, and the colouring information is now directly in on compatible. You will even have like VGA connections on your TV and so forth. It's not like the old days when we used to have to connect up a coaxial cable between your computer and your TV so that the signal would actually go in as if it was a TV station. Okay, and all of that entailed back in the good old days of CRTs and all that. Okay, TTY then was a teletype printer. I was started telling this to the other group, but it's probably totally irrelevant now. Back in the day, with football results on a Saturday afternoon from the UK, you used to get the results coming up rather than coming up on the screen as they do now. They actually come up on a wee teletype printer, and it's going. You'll see it in some of the old films in that car, football films that are based in olden, not all that olden times. I can still remember it. Okay, but maybe something in the 70s or that or earlier. These teletype printers were the main printer. There wasn't, you didn't have the printers that we have now. So TTY, there's not too many of them around at the moment. I don't think so. That's been depreciated. So anywhere you see it, if it's talking about media and screen, you just need to put in screen. If it's talking about media and something to do with print, you just have to put in print. And we'll highlight them as we go through it. So here's an example here in this one where it says media is equal to quote print comma projection. You just have media is equal to quote print quote. Okay. So what we actually have now, we've two different types of style sheet now. We'll have a style sheet, in this case here, the scraps.css, which is the general style sheet for everything. Okay. Normally we've just been using this for the display, but it's actually for everything. Okay. Then we have the print.css. The print.css is only for the media. Okay. So if we're going to print, okay, whatever is in that CSS will be executed. Okay, in terms of style. So that will have the effect of possibly overwriting some of the CSS styles that were appropriate for the, in this case here, scraps.css. So just bear that in mind. So what the print.css does is it will modify any of the styles that we have put in that we want to change for when it's printing. So that could be maybe hiding something. It could be changing something or reformatting something. Okay. So it'll sort of determine whether or not something is displayed or not displayed on the print preview, and as a result of that, on when it's actually printed. Okay. So we'll go through a couple of examples here, right? So what we have here, we'll insert the following media links for scraps.css in the samples. So we've got print.css, and again, that'll just be media is equal to print. And we've got scraps.css. In this case, media is going to be equal to screen. Okay. Now, that means just for the screen, the CSS is going to take account. Then we go in here. We're going to change the media screen for this is an embedded style sheet, which is a way of doing it. Okay. So we're embedding it for different media. This is for media is equal to screen. So you can do it exactly the same way, either like this, or by having an external style sheet and saying in the definition of the link to the style sheet saying no, this is just for media or for screen or for print. Okay. Go down here a bit more. We've got one for print now. So again, what we're doing here is here we've got media print. This is the embedded style sheet. And down here we've got screen, media is equal to screen, and we've got dot notes. So we're actually able to have different combinations that are in there. Hidden web page elements, we can use visibility is hidden or display is equal to none. We normally use display is equal to none. I don't know why, that's just what I've always been doing as such. So it's good for banner, hyperlinks, addresses. So you can, if you do it right, you can like hide a full section. Oops, what happened there? Down the other way. You can hide a full where did I go here? Yeah, we can hide a full section is normally the way, or a div or whatever to do it. So if you wanted to hide, like say your navigation, you could and you had it in a nav tag, you could just set display none for the nav. Okay, so here's an example here where using ID head links and then the tag address, we're doing display none. Okay. Again, here we're just changing the font, so we've got sans serif. If we were using some kind of fancy fonts for them, that's a good way of doing it. Setting the print styles of the three notes. So we've got these three notes, three blocks, which are currently on top of everything. So we're doing for the dot notes, so the class notes. Again, the media equals to just print. Display would be list item. Boom, boom, boom. So we're changing the display to be list item rather than what it was. And list style image, we're putting the bullet in. Finally, font size and the margin. So it'll come up as a list item now rather than the notes the way it was there. So here we go. Here you can see the notes showing up there. And then the picture. Then if we go down here, we've got the printed page styles. So we've got the size of the pages, the margin and the page area, the orientation. So here we're putting the at page. So the size is 8.5 inches and 11 inches in portrait. So it's an A4 page. And then the margin is 0.5 of an inch. So it's just giving us a bit of a margin on the side. We can put in page breaks. So we've got the ID sample underscore image, reverse the div holding the big image in the samples.html file. So we insert the following code into it. So the ID sample underscore image page break before always text align center. So what's going to happen there is before we display that div, which has the image, we're going to have a page break. Okay. And then we've got sample underscore image, and we're putting in a width and a height into it. Okay, so that means we're restricting the size. So what's going to happen now is we'll see the page we're looking at turn out like this, a new page, and we've got our page set up there. Okay. Like this page could easily fit on page 1, but we're just doing it to show you how to put it onto a new page. Okay. You'll be expected to have a style sheet for printing your web pages on as part of your website. So this is for CA2. Okay, so bear in mind that you'll need to implement that. What I would suggest you do today is, when we're finished the next one, which is audio and video, which is fairly short as well, is to work on this, getting it working as it is, and then if you've got some progress made on your website, you can try integrating it into your website now. And remember, it's the same as, because there were different issues with the previous class. You can, for example, have a number of different print CSSs. You could have a general print CSS and then maybe a specific one for each page if you so wish. That's not a requirement, but if for whatever reason you need to, you can do that. You okay? So that is the video, and or sorry, that is the printing. So we go now to the video and audio. No questions on that? Everybody happy enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, grand. So the video and audio is an interesting one here as well. Okay, so just, and again with this, like the last one, Philip has put up a great video of it going through this. There was a time, guys, believe it or not, that browsers couldn't actually handle video and audio very easily, and you had to actually install what we call plugins. Okay, now since some of you might remember that things like Flash or QuickTime, depending on what website you were doing and what essentially what the ethos of the organization that developed it was. Now, what has happened then with HTML5 has been there's a move away from that, and the reason for that is that it's saying that browsers and the tags are able to actually support what we call codecs. Okay. Now, last time out when we were looking at video or looking at images and the Pixlr, we one of the links I put up there was to a website that actually explains how or what the difference would be between different file formats. So what actually happens when we capture something, be it a video or in this case, be it audio, we're actually sampling something that's in real life. So it's what we call analog. And we need to put it into a system for communication with computers. And at the moment, the vast majority of computers are digital computers. Okay, so we need to take it from analog, which is kind of very continuous, to digital, which is very precise and exacting, and that has to be converted. So we have, for example, analog to digital converters, and the reverse as well, because to get out of the computer, we need to go from digital to analog. So, for example, at the moment, I'm speaking to you. And what's actually happening is my voice, which is a series of waves, is coming in and hitting my microphone. The microphone then is converting those waves into an electrical impulse. So there's a wee screen inside the microphone that is able to vibrate as the noise from my mouth comes out. It vibrates, creates an electrical signal, and that electrical signal then is sampled by the computer and is converted from this raw analog voltage into a series of digital bits. And the number of bits, the more bits you have, then the greater the what we call the resolution can be. So if we had, for example, say 4 bits, we could have 16 different levels of amplitude of signal. So that means that my voice would have the ability of having 16 different levels, which wouldn't really be all that good. Because if I started whispering, and if I started shouting, they're taking up 2 levels, and you've got, imagine different levels in there. Typically, you're looking at sampling rates. In order for, we're not getting full theory here, but in order to have any kind of ability to hear things clearly, we're typically talking about having over 40,000 samples per second. And of each of those samples per second, we're probably talking of in the order of having at least 16, if not 32 bits of data to be able to resolve the amplitude. The higher the sampling rate, the higher the number of bits in the sample, the greater the fidelity. So high fidelity It's much better. Also, then you get into, you have stereo, which is 2 speakers, or you have surround sound, which could be 5 or greater, and the amount of bits of data you have increases quite significantly. They all have to be encoded. So we have these methods for compression, and we looked at compression algorithms that were being used for images, the different, the JPEGs and the bitmaps and so forth. The same thing happens with audio, and that's covered in the article as well. So what we're actually doing is we're compressing it from the analog signal, transmitting it in digital, and then when it gets to be reproduced, what actually happens? So I'm speaking. My voice of waves is being converted into digital impulses. Digital impulses, that voltage is being converted into a digital signal, and that digital signal is being transmitted to your computer. Your computer then takes it, runs the opposite of the compression, the decompression, or the DEC part. So the CO is compression on my side. The DEC for codec is the uncompression or the decompression of that signal. And then it's actually sending that digital signal then to a digital to analog converter. And that voltage then goes to your speakers. And inside your speakers, there's something that vibrates, and that vibration then causes a sound wave to be produced, and our eardrums then picks it up. Okay, and it does what it does. So that's what the whole idea of a codec is. So it's just a piece of software that can compress and decompress audio and video files. Okay, now, so we don't have to worry as much as we used to. The resources we have here, we've got a media folder called with all the concertina tune. We've got I should have put the sound on this, but I didn't. We've got a B-fly, which is the butterflies that are flying around various formats. Not every browser will play every format, and that's part of the problem that we have here, is that we can have we need to have the ability to support all different browsers. Okay, so some browsers will just support certain codecs, others will support different ones. So there is the ability within HTML5 to support all of them. There's always also a very important file here called story.vtt. Okay, and VTT actually contains the subtitles, and we'll look at that in a wee bit of depth now in a wee second. Okay, so if I go to the browser here, now this isn't going to work on your machine. If I go to right click on it and open with Chrome. So if I open it here and if I play this, nothing really happens. Okay, it's playing away. I can hear the things here, but you probably can't because it hasn't been transmitted. I didn't click the button on Teams. I can just hear the butterflies and noises and that kind of stuff. But it's absolutely not appeared on the screen. Okay. However, if we put this onto a some kind of a server, okay, so you can put it on SQL server as such, and I click play here, you'll see now I start getting some captions coming up. Okay. Okay, so there's some captions coming up there. So how did that happen? Now I've opened up the, let me just get rid of this here. So that's what I put in there. This is the VTT file. And what it does is at the beginning, it comes up and it says what type of file it is. It's web VTT. It's very important. You have to have that. It then says what kind it is. So it's saying it's captions, and what language it is, it's EN. Okay. And then we have these timestamps. So this is the starting time to the ending time, and it gives the text that's going to be displayed. Then we have another starting time and another ending time, and the text is going to be displayed. And again, and again, and again. Okay. So if I want to, I can just go in here. Dash, and I can put in 00 colon 0. Well, I'm going to do 15 colon, oops, full stop 0, and then bang bang dash 00 colon. I could of course just copy and paste, right? 00 colon. Now see there, now that started at 15.0, so this one here should really be 15.100. We'll take this up to say 20.000. Okay, and just save that. Actually, no, I need to display something, don't I? So we'll do a dash. What do I want to display? This is my new message.
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
How do you specify which video the captions go on to?
Okay, I'll show you that now in a wee second.
All right, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to save it there. And when I go in here, if I refresh this now, I should have a new caption. Yeah, this is my new message here at 15 seconds to, it should stop at 20. And then the message disappears there at 20. Okay, so how you specify it is if we, if I open up the file, so what we've done here is we've got the video tag here, okay, and we've got 3 sources, okay, so you have the video tag, right? We then have a source tag inside of it, so that gives us the source of the video. So what's going to actually happen here is that it's going to try to find a file called bfly.ogv, okay? If it can't find that, it will then try and find the bfly mv or bfly.m4v, and if it can't find that, it will then go to try for bfly.w or webm, okay? If for whatever reason none of them have been found, or if it's a case that the browser is a really old browser and doesn't support it, which could happen, okay, it'll just come up and say your browser does not support the video tag, right? Then you have here the track, which gives you the story.vtt, what's the source is, what the type is, the label, English captions, the kind, source language, EN, and the default is just blank, okay? It's the end of track. You could have a number of those for different languages, okay? And it will take whatever language your browser is set up for, because your browser will be set up for a default language, okay? You've got stuff in here for older browsers, say Internet Explorer 8 or earlier, and you've got that object stuff there. But this here needs to use XShock FlashWave, and it's got an SWF file, okay, and different modes set up there. To be honest, I don't bother with that anymore. I just, if somebody isn't able to support the latest, then tough, you can't see the stuff. But I suppose if you'll be able to do that to include everybody, okay. Is that all right? That answer the question?
Yeah, that's fine.
And lovely. So again, play around with that. You will, as part of your CA2, be asked to make a wee video yourself on your phone and then put up subtitles around it, so you can play with that. There's plenty of resources. You can Google W3 .org has loads of if you just kind of Google web VTT code or something like that, you get all the information on it. It's really, it's a lot of stuff you can do with this. It really is impressive. I had been using it at the beginning. I just kind of ran out of time really doing it lately. But you can do things like you can change, apply styles to it and all that. Now, not every browser will support every one of these styling options, but a lot of them do. Okay, Chrome is fairly good at a lot of this stuff. So you can do lots of different bits and pieces. You don't have to have it in the same position as well. It's really, there's really interesting stuff you can do with this as such. So I encourage you to have a wee read around it. Okay. Audio files, then it's a lot simpler. You've audio and a source. Checking the audio file formats. There's that caniuse.com. Yeah, give it a wee researching it. Using video files on a web page, video.html shows you 2 tags, track, kind of explains it there. Bit of testing. Now, as I said, you will need to upload this onto Moodle or onto your MySQL web service because it just doesn't like, it doesn't run off a file. If I try running off a file, you get errors on it. If you have XAMPP installed, you can run it on that. That's what I'm running it on here. So then for your CA2 website, part of the requirements there is to have a short 5 to 10 seconds long audio file. Maybe introducing your website, the file structure, something like that. Okay, you think of whatever. You'll figure out something. If you're camera shy, you can have it looking at butterflies or something. I don't know. Just make sure you do it yourself. Keep it less than 31 megabytes.